On today's episode of Locked On NHL, it is time for Team USA and Team Canada to cry havoc and let slip the hogs of war.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On NHL, your daily NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day, Archer fans and otherwise. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On today's episode of Locked On NHL, we're diving into the biggest game of the century between Team USA and Team Canada from Saturday night. Now that we know the rematch is set for Thursday, we'll take a look at the two games that got us there, as well as getting you set for Team USA, Team Canada 2.0. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, joined by JD Young of Locked On Sharks. And JD, on this very show, we said some things about the 4Nations face-off in general. Not really sure what to expect. Yeah. And I think one number can sum up what we got on Saturday night between Team USA and Canada. The highest non-Stanley Cup final rated game since 2019. I think that does the talking.
Yeah. We were wrong. You were right. We're dumb. You're smart, et cetera, et cetera. I was going into this thinking like, whatever, it'll be cool, whatever. And like from the first puck drop, like that Canada-Sweden game, last week was amazing. But then building up towards Saturday, where it was like the rivalry day between Finland and Sweden, which those two countries do not like each other. And then USA and Canada right now with everything going on, just kind of felt like one of those moments that we're going to kind of think about for a while. And the Tkachuk Bash brothers just coming out swinging, like literally coming out swinging in the first 9 seconds. This game had everything you would want. Fights, great offensive play, great defensive play, terrible goals allowed by Jordan Bennington. What more could you want in a game, Seth?
I mean, it checked every box that I was looking for. And I think the most fun element that you hit on is just the buildup. And this is something that I was just super critical with the NHL about, is that I didn't feel like they marketed this enough. You didn't need to. It's USA versus Canada. And for an entire week leading up to Saturday's game, once we got that first little taste between Canada and Sweden, at that point, okay, we are in for one. And then USA came out and they looked great against Finland. It was like, all right, this is going to be what we were hoping it would be. And you think about any intense level of rivalry, like you think about, two schools in college football that just hate each other, or the biggest NHL rivalries. This was that on steroids. Like it was such a buildup. I was hyped all day Saturday. I woke up insanely early.
Just a pep in your step all day. Like one of those days where you just wake up with a pep in your step. You're like, this is gonna be like, I'm gonna have a great evening because this is gonna be fun. No matter what happens, this is probably gonna be fun. Like I think though, like having the Tkachuk brothers, for some reason, they just are these like natural villains that they're those players that you hate to play against, you love to have them on your team, and it's somewhat like, we watched Brady Tkachuk on the Sens team, and it's very easy to kind of root against the Sens. And Matthew Tkachuk winning the cup last year, but like seeing these two guys together just wreak havoc and set the tone. Like that Brady Tkachuk hit on Drew Doughty is going to be like stapled to my brain forever. Like Drew Doughty is one of like the greatest defensemen of our generation, and Brady Tkachuk just went through him like a child. Like he's just mowing down a child. It was nothing to him. Like it's like you have to think the Tkachuk brothers coming out of this are going to be some of the biggest stars just of how they played. One, they played well. I know they both a little bit injured and held out, but two, just the style of play, kind of that callback to that old school hockey. They have to be two of the biggest winners coming out of this tournament.
Oh, 100%. And this is why, if you look at how these teams were constructed, and you see this happen quite a bit, is where a team takes on the identity of its GM. And you look at Bill Guerin, like he was a pretty prolific goal scorer throughout his career, but he was also like, he had no qualms with putting somebody's face in the ice. So the fact that he goes out and gets both Tkachuk brothers to be staples on this roster, but even beyond that, like everybody on this USA team that has played major roles, like think about how central Jack Eichel has been to the success. Think about how integral Jake Guentzel has been to the success. It's just guys that don't mind scrapping. Like they don't mind getting in the mix, whether it be not necessarily like a fight, but just going and throwing the body along
Playing
the
with
wall.
that edge. Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels like that is what it was going to take to beat Canada, at least initially, because you look at the Canada roster: Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Cale Makar. Like they've got all the skill, all the talent. And you either got to try to match them player for player in that department, or you got to find ways to slow them down.
Yeah, and I think speaking of slowing down, Charlie McAvoy, like I've seen plenty of Charlie McAvoy. I did not expect like that type of performance from him. And yeah, like the defense has played really well. Your boy Brock Faber playing big minutes as well too. Like the defense for the USA has played really, really well, even being shorthanded without Quinn Hughes. Yeah, like, and the goaltending has been excellent. It's crazy when you have Connor Hellebuck, pretty good. Some would say MVP this season, but we've had this debate before. But I think though for USA, like, yeah, maybe they don't have the like McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, and it's not, Tkachuk and Eichel. The Tkachuks and Eichel are very, very good players as well. But like, it does feel like maybe is a little bit better fit. And plus, again, the goaltending plus that the USA has, where it's just like, if we mess up, you still have the best goaltender in the world back there who can kind of save your bacon. So,
yeah, and you look at the comparison between what Bennington did in that game and what Hellebuck did in that game. I don't even think Bennington played. I thought he had a great game. The key was the first goal that he gave up is one that Connor Hellebuck just not allow.
Yeah, that's Connor Hellebuck's not letting that in. And I mean, again, your team scored one goal. You can't win many hockey games scoring one goal. So yeah, it was absolutely thrilling. My kid, 7 years old, was just going crazy watching this game. Like this was kind of the first real international hockey that he's gotten to be able to like watch and root for and stuff. Just absolutely nuts, especially the hits and stuff like that. Brady Tkachuk hit, and I quote, "That's an owie." That was his quote from that. That's an owie. So, but yeah, it was great, and this is kind of like what we hope for, right? Going back to our initial thing, right? Was like we hope they play hard, like. These dudes played hard, and they played like this was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and Thursday night is going to be like I cannot wait until Thursday night. That game is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more as we look ahead to the second matchup. But I think one of my favorite parts about a tournament like this is it gives you the opportunity for heroes to be born. How about Dylan Larkin coming into to this tournament, and he obviously he's a great player for the Detroit Red Wings. He's playing a bottom six role on this Team USA, and he goes and he scores the game-winning goal against Team Canada on just a missile past
Yep.
Jordan Bennington. But it's like this is the thing that we as sports fans crave, is just the ability to identify the villain and root against them, and
Yep.
to find the hero characters and to cheer for them all the way up to the top. And Dylan Larkin's making an early case for this 4Nations face-off to be the guy right now that's kind of the unsung hero.
Yep.
It's just like the narratives are all over the place. And I think the only sort of international competition that comes close, and let me be clear, it doesn't hold a candle to what we saw between USA and Canada, is like the Ryder Cup, where you have the golfers from USA against the international golfers, and they get into it, they get fired up, the crowd hates the other team, but it's like a tenth of what USA Canada was. Like you have multiple people who have worked in hockey forever saying that's the loudest environment they have ever heard in their life.
Yeah.
That's how much
Also,
it
hats
means.
off. The Montreal crowd was on fire. You could tell they were on fire all day long waiting for this thing. Like helps with, I think too, right? For the USA, I know we're very USA focused on this, but for the USA playing in Canada, like playing on the basically a road game in Canada, like it was great. One of those games that definitely going to be like you'll remember this game with it. So yeah, it was. I just hope Thursday doesn't disappoint. That's why like US route, it's like 6-1, like in the early second period or something like that. I don't think so. I think both teams are going to be ready to go. And I know there's a lot of injuries. It sounds like most everybody should be okay for USA. We're getting some updates as we record right now, where a lot of guys are just kind of held out for precautionary, including Brady Tkachuk. I think these guys are going to be revved up to go. I think this game is going to hopefully be the Godfather 2 to our Godfather.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the two games that led to this rematch a little bit. USA taking on Sweden, and then, of course, Canada laying the boots early to Finland, but then having to hang on for dear life. We'll talk about that, and then, of course, we will get you set for the winner-take-all in the 4Nations face-off. We got a lot more to discuss on today's episode of Locked On NHL. We continue after this. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Select Quote. They shop, you save. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. Make sure to stick with us throughout the rest of the week. We have shows for you every Monday through Friday with a rotating panel of hosts covering the biggest stories in the NHL. And obviously, with this being the big focus, we have had a lot of discussion on the 4Nations face-off, and rightfully so. So we're gonna focus on what we saw here today, yesterday, I should say. Today when we're recording this, but yesterday, as we saw the two games that are going to lead up to the championship game, and two very different approaches, JD.
Yep.
Because the USA got that head-to-head win against Canada, they punched their ticket to the championship game. So the game against Sweden didn't matter really at all. And it was treated as such. Jake Ottinger in net, no Connor Hellebuck, resting him up for Thursday. Matthew Tkachuk held out of the lineup. And
Austin Matthews held out of the lineup.
Matthews held out.
Charlie McAvoy also held out. And then Brady Tkachuk leaves the game early. And then he also held out for precautionary reasons. So the U.S. was very, very shorthanded in this game. Against Sweden, which they lost 2-1. But whatever. I think what the focus here should be Sweden, because we spent a bunch of time talking about USA. But I some of the big winners I think from this tournament for Sweden, Erik Karlsson. Noted good Swedish hockey player, looked very good the entire tournament. He always seems to rise when best on best type of performances. And I do miss watching Erik Karlsson do cool Erik Karlsson things. But yeah, no, I thought he looked very, very good. And hopefully the Penguins can be like, hey, do this, but in a Penguins uniform, please.
I would like to also nominate Joel Eriksson Ek as a standout for Sweden. And I do this because I was so adamant about him not playing to heal up and rest up for the rest of the NHL season. And I don't know what it is. It might just be that they found the bottle of secret stuff in the locker room. Eriksson Ek looked fantastic. He set a just A+ dandy screen on the Gustav Nyquist goal to tie things up for Sweden, and then Jesper Bratt had the goal to take the lead. He looked great, and I think maybe he just needed a little bit of that to kind of get himself back and going, and hopefully that does the trick.
Yeah, I think also Jesper Bratt too, who's very, like we know, great hockey player. Maybe gets a little bit lost in the mix too with a very loaded Devils team, but you could tell, especially tonight, he was a player of the game tonight. Was all over the ice, like you said. Scored the game-winning goal there. He was outstanding. Also, Samuel Ersson, the goalie, also I thought tonight looked great. Guy who's been playing well for the Flyers before the 4Nations. I have a feeling he might be one of those guys who rides the momentum in the final kind of chunk of the season here for the Flyers. So yeah, there's a lot of great performances for Sweden, and it stinks because they lost a couple over to they win one of those overtime games, and we could be having a US Sweden game here. And I think though for Sweden, maybe just don't have the same upper crust star power, but they were a really good team this year. And it's, when you have a round robin, teams have to lose. So one guy though didn't perform very well this, and I know you wanted to talk about, he plays for the Canucks and has been kind of the center story of this entire NHL season. Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, it's bad. He finished the game. He played just under 10 minutes. So it's to the point that a guy who has just oodles of talent, not even playing prominent minutes, you look at the roster and he should be a top line guy for this team.
He should.
And he played under 10. He had one shot attempt, and I do believe he did not have a single point in the entirety of the 4Nations face-off. Not great.
It's not great, buddy.
Meanwhile, JT Miller rejuvenated by heading to the New York Rangers. He's fighting people. He's fighting Canadians.
He's fighting everybody.
The
only way this game could have been topped USA Canada is if Pettersson and Miller just went off that would have been they would have had to just stop the game, Whoever wins that wins the 4 Nations.
Yeah.
I'm putting my money on JT Miller to win that fight between those two, but still,
Well,
they would have just stopped the whole tournament right there. Yeah.
it's leading us down an interesting path that I don't think anybody really, maybe outside of Vancouver. I'm sure Canucks. I'm sure it's been discussed there plenty. We're going down this path now to where was Elias Pettersson the problem the whole time?
I don't know, man. Like Elias Petter, something happened. Like there's something. The poor guy maybe just needs to. Maybe he needs to the Aaron Rodgers just go live in a cave for the summer and just like in a dark
Darkness
cave and
retreat?
something. Yeah, the darkness retreat and just go live there for summer and see if you can reset yourself because something happened to him. Like as soon as he signed that contract, it just has not been the same guy.
Yeah.
And I know the Canucks are going to try to be patient and like let's see how. And again, you never want to overreact to it. Like we talk about this with prospects all the time, right? You never want to overreact to one tournament, but when it's like best on best like this, and again, you're getting outplayed by you're getting like Leo Carlson, who's a top pick, but a 20-year-old player who's getting more minutes than you, and yeah, it's not a good look. And I'm sure the Locked On Canucks guys are going to be dissecting this with a fine tooth comb here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, who have had notoriously bad seasons, both scored. So they both had more points than Elias Pettersson in this tournament.
Jordan Bennington, more points than Elias Pettersson in this tournament. You and I, the same amount of points.
Yeah, we are tied. We are tied with
Elias Pettersson. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's
JT
brutal.
Miller, by the way, 10 out of 13 in the face-off circle. We like to see that.
It's pretty good. I'm not a big face-off guy, but
yeah,
whatever.
I just like to see nice, healthy numbers. In
that's a really good number there. So, I do think though for Sweden, like you could hold your head up high in coming out of this tournament, right? Of feeling like we went like again, it's 4 Nations. Did you know there's 4 nations facing off? But I think they can hold their head up high. If they get a different result in one of those overtime games, like you're probably playing in the finals type of for the scenario. So,
well, and they took the team that was widely expected to get to the championship game against Team USA to overtime in a game in which Canada got out to the early lead and they battled back and they got it to OT and they nearly if they would have won that game, Canada does not get to the championship game. So that's I would certainly hang my hat on that as a result. So we got the rematch coming up. We'll talk a little bit about how Canada got to this point because it was a ride at the end.
Roller coaster.
So it was a little bit of a bumpy ride, but they did what they needed to do to set up the rematch between Team USA and Team Canada. So we'll get you set to get on the bus for the championship of the 4 Nations face-off when we come back here on Locked On NHL.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you just want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Nothing better in the NBA than when Steph Curry has got a Curry flurry. And if you want to watch Steph Curry and win money while watching Steph Curry do cool Steph Curry things, FanDuel's the place to do it. Plus, the app is super easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on NHL. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on NHL your first listen each and every day. Just finishing things up here today by taking a look at the matchup that got Canada to the championship game. That was, of course, Canada and Finland. And this was interesting because Canada scored the first 4 goals of the game.
Felt like it was over.
Yeah, Kevin Lankinen gets yanked. It felt like at that point that it was all over, but the crying. And then all of a sudden, 7 minutes left to go, and Finland was like, "I think we found something here." And they score 3 times with a minute 20 to go. Your boy Mikael Granlund, now of the Dallas Stars, scores his second goal of the game. It's 4-3 at that point. And it was pretty evident that Canada was looking to extract some frustration heading into the championship game. But the fact that they kind of had to hang on at the end, does that leave any sort of a residual effect?
You do wonder, right? Because Canada hasn't really won a game cleanly, right? You go back to the Sweden game, you had to win in overtime. In a game where, again, you come out early, right? They have that power play goal that everyone talks about, the McDavid to Crosby to McKinnon goal that, right, we've dreamed of. They have that goal where it feels like, okay, Canada's just going to go on and do his thing. And not so fast, my friends. They have to go to overtime for that game. In this game, right, you go up 4-0. And again, you let a team and you should 4 goals should feel like a pretty safe lead, but you let them kind of crawl back into it. Any Sharks fan or anybody who's watched the Sharks and knows Mikael Granlund with an empty net situation, the dude's deadly. He scored a bunch of goals to kind of put some lipstick on the pig for the Sharks over the past season and a half. Does it again in this game for Finland. And like Finland, right, you were coming into this tournament, right? You knew like the forwards were pretty solid. You knew the depth defense was a huge issue with all the injuries that they had, right? And they're just scraping to try to find somebody with a Finnish flag that they can, put out there. I thought Finland, I thought they overachieved basically based on the roster that they had. And again, they, had the least amount of points in the tournament, but they were scrappy. They played everybody hard, and they were just kind of the talent deficient team of this tournament just because of all the injuries they had, especially on the blue line.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, I go back to the goaltending. Jordan Bennington, it's just a trickle-down effect. Like, he was going just fine until he gives up the first goal, and then just like that, just the wheels just completely fell off. Like I find myself going to Money Puck to see what the expected goals were, and actually not bad. 3.45 expected goals. So he's actually better than expected, but it's just giving up 3 against Finland is completely different than going up against what Team USA is going to bring to the table. And giving up 3 and kind of letting the faucet leak a little bit, does that turn into 5 or 6?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, especially it's not the first time we've seen Jordan Bennington just kind of this happen, right? Where soft goal, and then
he's made a career out of it.
Yes, he has made a career out of it. So, I am curious. I am really curious to see what Canada does in net on Thursday. But I think for Finland, right, you're down 4-0. It would have been really easy to just pack it in. Let's go home, make sure everyone's healthy. We had a great time. Cool. We'll see you guys when the season starts again on Saturday. It would have been really easy to do that. But credit to them, right? They kept fighting in a game that meant nothing, right? And there was no way they were going to win the get into the championship, right? It very much was didn't have like anything for them to play for. And they made it a game out of a game that a lot of us was like, this thing's over after the first period. So hats off to Finland.
Yeah. Now, an interesting note from Michael Russo. Listen to this. Mike Sullivan says there will be contingency plans made in case USA needs players for Thursday, just as Canada did with Thomas Harley. Process hasn't started yet. He says he anticipates getting injured players back Thursday. So this is going to be interesting to see because this is something that has to be fixed going forward.
Yes. Like roster size. I know they're trying to make it as like NHL-y as possible with the limit, but like you can't, right?
Yeah.
Like just bring like 30 dudes. Just bring 30 dudes. Right? 3 goalies. I give 3 goalies in the, like in the tournament. Bring 10 defensemen and 17 forwards. If I do my math, that's 30 people. And if some guys don't get to play, then some guys don't get to play. But right, that way, if a dude's sitting on the beach or in Cancun, and all of a sudden he's got to fly to Boston or something like that. Like, yeah, I think you just need to. It's almost like the old taxi squad, right? You need the taxi squad, bring back the taxi squad or something like that. But yeah, they have to make it a larger roster for the next time they do this, and they're 1,000% should do this again. I don't know if it's an every year thing or maybe it's every other year or something like that, but they 1,000% should do this again because it was amazing. It was I don't think I've had this much fun like watching international hockey since like the TJ Oshie Olympics back in the day. Like it's been a long time. So
yeah, this was a great precursor to Olympic hockey, but and I don't think players are going to be as upset to go and potentially not play as they would be if they were called to cut an actual vacation short. Like
I don't think even then they're hockey players. Like they're just gonna go do what they're told anyway. So like,
well, and it's
like, I get to go play hockey. Okay, cool.
There's so much that goes into it beyond what we see on the ice. Like there's a lot of team building kind of stuff that goes on. And if it ends up being a younger player that's selected, that is an eye-opening learning experience for them. Like I think about Brock Faber, Matt Boldy on the team, what they're pulling in from guys like up until the switch.
Getting to play with the Tkachuk brothers. Yeah.
Like that's valuable experience that those guys can pull in from guys who have been around for a very long time. It's valuable.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, this is just how this process works is you try something, it works, you tweak it a little bit, and you just keep running it back.
Yeah, I can't wait again. 4Nations facing off. I will miss the Sidney Crosby 4Nations facing off commercial as he looks at the camera. But yeah, really quick though, Sidney Crosby, he's like 1,000 years old and he is still just insanely good. I think this was a nice just kind of appreciation of like, and especially on a bad Penguins team, right? The fall of Rome as this team just kind of starts to crumble, and as most of these teams do, just a nice oh yeah, Sidney Crosby was like insanely special, like an insanely special player, and I think this might be that kind of like last swan song for him of just like how insanely good he was. So yeah. Anyway,
yeah, it is really nice to see Sidney Crosby playing in some competitive national hockey while the Byzantine Empire collapses around him. And I will throw one suggestion out there. Cam Fowler's not doing anything. If they need somebody to step in and take a spot.
Cam Fowler, yeah. I don't even know where he's from. They just put him in there. Whatever team. It's like all-time quarterback, all-time defenseman. You just see the guy, Cam Fowler, is ready to go. So
he's got the every nation pass.
You maybe some relegation. What they could have done too. Sweden, Finland play for relegation. Whoever loses, they get replaced with Czechia or Russia or something like that for the next one. Gary Bettman, before you retire, Get at me, bro.
Doing Robert De Niro in whatever movie he was in where he's pointing at the camera and he's
Pointing.
like, "You are good, my friend."
Yep.
That's a great idea.
So.
You may have just put the finishing touches on this thing.
The Swedish touches, not the Finnish touches.
The
Sweden
the two teams that don't make the championship play to see which team gets to play in the next one.
There you go.
That I love.
Sweden, Finland going at it. Two teams that don't like each other. Two countries that do. I did love all the like social stuff where they're like asking the players, like like all the Swedish players, like say something nice about Finland. They're just like no, like all in Swedish, like no, nothing. There's nothing good there or something like that. But yeah. So anyway,
because there are a few countries that I think are in line for the next one. So I like that idea, Gary. We'll just take our nominal fee. Well, honestly, I don't even want the fee. Just give it all to JD. That's a fantastic idea. So that's what we got for you for today. Appreciate everybody tuning into today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, you can find us every single weekday, Monday through Friday. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got you covered every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.